Giraldi speaks out about his time at Nottingham Forest, and boy, did he have a lot of BS to say. Welcome to your Forest News. Good morning, good evening, or good night, wherever in the world you are, whatever time of day you're watching this. Hope you're having a wonderful day, and welcome to your latest Forest News. In today's video, we're going to be dissecting what Giraldi had to say for himself as he was interviewed by The Athletic. We'll give you updates on Hendo as things look to have been taking a bit of a backturn with him currently. There's yet more interest in Brennan Johnson and plenty of other stories to get our teeth into today. Before we do that, please don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to Forest Fan TV if you are new, and don't forget there's only a few tickets left for the Wonder Boys signed frame shirt. Go and click on the link in the description below, and let's jump into this, and we can only start with Giraldi. Okay, so let's start with this Giraldi story, and honestly, man, talk about freaking make your own mind up. He seems to contradict himself every 10 seconds on this article. And I feel like he's coming out to say it's not my fault. Everything that happened wasn't my fault. Basically, I shouldn't have been sacked. I'm angry for it, but I understand it. Let me read you some quotes. Let's start with a few quotes here, which are quite interesting. So, as I mentioned, he's speaking to The Athletic on this. He says, "Of course I'm angry. Of course I would have liked to finish the season, and I don't understand why." And then a few seconds later, he goes on to say, "I've accepted it though, and I'm thankful. I'm not a person who has a bad feeling. I've been given a great opportunity. I played my part and did my best. That's for sure. It'll hurt me and I still don't understand, but that's life." I mean, talk about contradicting yourself. You're angry. You wanted to be there till the end of the season, but then you're saying you do understand it. It's almost like he wants to say he's angry and it's not his fault and everything, but at the same time, he's trying to be politically correct with the second part of that statement. It's just a bit weird. He then goes out to talk about, and this is quite interesting, the whole saga after the Leeds game, where there was heavy talks of Patrick Vieira being linked to Nottingham Forest, and Steve Cooper was going to go. And basically, he's trying to be the guy, the shining knight who came out and said, "Well, Marinakis, Greek father, we got to put a statement out and kind of kill off all the stories." So what he said here, he said, "It came out that after we lost against Leeds, that Patrick Vieira would become our coach." He says, "I phoned the owner because also with previous games, something similar came out. I said to him, we can't have that coming out all the time before the games because it's the wrong message to the players and to everyone. We are in this together and we have to stick together." And he's kind of making it out like he's this oracle of knowledge, oracle of, you know, tactics and how things should be put across. And I don't really buy that one. I think it's Marinakis that made the decision, because if you think about it, by him saying that, if it were to be true, he's basically saying, don't get rid of Cooper, get rid of me. Because what Marinakis has done this season is when it's come to a decision moment, he's either thought about sacking Cooper or thought about sacking the people in charge of recruitment. We saw that earlier on in the season, where it happened, and again this seems to have followed a similar pattern. And then he goes on again to contradict himself. He says, "I was extremely happy that the owner put out the statement because it was the right way to defend your club and your people. I think it was a brilliant move." He goes, "I didn't believe at this point that there was anyone better than what we had already. I said that to Steve as well, so he was aware. We're still friends outside the pitch. We talk and text. But if I thought at the time the right decision was to change him, I would have changed him or fought for him to be changed." So what he's saying here is that he was defending Cooper. But surely he would understand that by defending Cooper, then he would be the one with the axe over his neck, so to speak. And that's where it doesn't make sense to me. And I think he's just saying this now to save face, to talk about what a team player he was, etc. And it is just a little weird. And then, because he goes on to say, "I know it's difficult to listen to that, but I prefer that it was to be me rather than the coaching staff, because in that moment, I feel less important than the coaching staff." Yet at the start of the statement, he's there saying he's angry and he feels he should have been left until the end of the season. It just doesn't make sense. It's very, very contradictory. And then on top of that, Like that wasn't enough he was talking about. He moves on to talk about the January recruitment, and he really tries to defend himself here in the January recruitment. And this is, again, not my fault, Giraldi. What he's saying here is that he was in charge. In fact, let me give you some quotes here. I'm not hiding about the ones who have not worked, because these players have helped us win games since January and staying up in one of the most difficult relegation battles. That includes Chris Wood, who scored 1 goal in 7 games. He said the Wood word. I know there's been criticism about that for the cost. It was for us the best choice possible at that moment, because we have financial fair play limit. We cannot go and buy a 40 to 50 million pound striker. Well, that doesn't mean you go and chuck 20 million nearly on an absolute crap striker now, does it? Again, not Chris Wood's fault, but the structure. He's putting the responsibility on him. And for me, that's unforgivable. That deal with Newcastle is one of the worst deals I've seen in football. Again, I reiterate, I don't think Chris Wood is good anyway, but he's definitely not 19 million good either. It's just ridiculous. So he is almost taking responsibility for that through the words he's saying. He carries on to say, Taiwo was injured, meant we had to react. I know people want the best in the world, but in a relegation battle, you have to go with what's available. And that was very important for us. Was players used to playing these types of games. So what he's saying here is relegation hardened strikers. Kind of makes sense, but still, Wood wasn't the right one. Then he talks about Shelvey, and he basically blames Shelvey here rather than the recruitment of Shelvey. He says his performances should have been better. I'm not hiding from that, but he's got 200 games, including at Newcastle last year, who were in the same position as Forest. So he was used to this type of game psychology. And again, it's blaming Shelvey there. And yeah, Shelvey was crap, but who recruited him? Technically, you're saying you did. Then he tries to talk about how he was amazing with the other signings that he brought in. He talks about Navas, how it's because of his connections that we got Navas over the line. And then he talks about Felipe, and because of his connections with Atletico Madrid and his profiling of players, how he was able to get this Champions League player in who's played in the Spanish league and won titles with them, etc. And he's trying to make himself sound really big on that one. And then he goes on to talk about Danilo and how he was scouting him from the time at Watford. He wanted him at Watford. He knew he was going to be amazing. And it was a deal that he pushed hard to get through. So it's a weird article. It's one that, well, now he's gone, I don't really care about him. He wasn't an appointment I was really too thrilled out, especially when we heard about all the micromanagement that he did at Watford, how he was very hands-on. Now, if he is spending 10 to 12 hours speaking to Cooper, how true that is, we don't know. But let's take it on face value. Then it's just really weird that the accusation of micromanaging kind of sounds true. What he did also go on to say was that Marinakis and Marinakis Jr. stayed well out of his business and they didn't interfere much. And again, that's contradictory to some of the stuff we hear about Marinakis Jr. So, what do you guys think about that article? For me personally, he's lashing out. He's trying to hold his hands up, saying there was no blame for anything that happened in his time. And he's trying to give himself good face here, maybe fishing for another job in the Premier League. Who knows? Get your thoughts in on all of that. Okay, let's move on and give you some updates on transfer news. And this one is about Dean Henderson. As we've mentioned to you before and on the Gore stream the other night, it looks like De Gea will not be signing for Manchester United to extend his contract and most likely may be moving away to Saudi. Now, what does this mean for Forest? Well, we've talked about this plenty of times, and we've always said that the catalyst for this move, the first domino that had to fall, was Manchester United securing David De Gea or securing a new keeper to replace him. Manchester United have come out now and said they will not carry on with the Forest deal on Dean Henderson until they have confirmation of who their first team keeper is going to be. Be that De Gea has a change of mind or be that they bring in a new goalkeeper. Now, it does worry me because Man U are very tight for cash this summer with their whole takeover bid going through and everything else like that. they've got limited funds, and they're a team that still needs a striker, maybe another midfielder, maybe a defender. And now if you add a goalkeeper into that, their spend was probably going to be too much to accommodate for it. So they're going to have to make a sacrifice in one of those positions where they're going to have to carry on with what they've got, or maybe kick it down the road to January. And it may be they look at Dean Henderson now and think, well, you were promised under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer that you would get first team football, and that's not materialized. You've actually done a season at Nottingham Forest, and he is a safe pair of hands. I don't remember any massive clangers from him at all. Yes, he got beaten by loads of worldies, and his distribution wasn't amazing, but I do put that down as well to a lot of the way that we defended. So they may look at that and think to themselves, well, he has proven himself at Forest. He's also had time before at Sheffield United. Maybe it is time to put him in between the sticks at United. I don't think they will. I think the interview with TalkSport, where he was going on about how he didn't even want Ten Hag to see him because he knew that he would want to keep him, that did him no favors with the Manchester United fan base. And I think those bridges are still burnt and they haven't been forgotten. Therefore, I still do think he will go. However, I don't see it happening before the preseason starts unless Man U pull their finger out and sort their goalkeeping situation. Now, doesn't this now causes headaches for Nottingham Forest come the preseason tour, or games, should we say? But there is one saving grace, that Hovarth will not be going to Luton because Luton have not taken up the option to buy on him. Therefore, Forest technically do still have a first team keeper that they can use in those friendlies. Now, I don't see Horvath as being the first choice for Nottingham Forest because clearly Forest are linked with Henderson and they've also been linked with other keepers. Now, the fact that there's been 2 or 3 keepers linked to Forest does tell you that there may be a little panic being set in the Forest hierarchy about what's happening with Dean Henderson. And now this is just me speculating, but I think it is a good thing for them to do to be looking at plan B and plan C options if we can't get Henderson over the line. I said Livakovic before, he would be my number 1 choice if we don't get Hendo. I also like the Dragon, the Polish keeper that Forest have been linked to. He's really good. We've done a video about him last week. But it is starting to worry me, and the timeframes of it are the things that are really, really going to screw us here. Because even if Manchester United had sorted out their goalkeeper situation, as I've explained to you guys many times before, they are the slowest club when it comes to getting deals over the line, be it players going in or out of Old Trafford. Do I still think Hendo will end up at Forest? Yes, I do. I still do think that's where his heart wants to be. I definitely think Cooper wants him. I think personal terms will probably not be an issue, even though he probably will be wanting about 100k, etc. For his services. But I think that's all been accounted into. And I think the deal will end up being in and around 20 million, not the 30 million Manchester United are quoting. Why do I say that? Because if they do go and recruit another keeper, then they are clearly sending out a statement to Dean Henderson that you are not wanted. Therefore, they need to lose the power. I said this on the video the other day, though. Forest need to put some deadlines on this. We have our own games and our own training to worry about, and we can't dance to the tune of Manchester United. Therefore, Forest should be turning to Man U and saying, by the end of June, we need a decision, yes or no. Here's our offer, take it or leave it. And if Man U need the cash, which they do, to recruit for themselves in the summer, they are going to have to play ball and play ball quicker. So I still believe Forest need to grow a pair and push this one through. But what do you guys think? And would you now be looking elsewhere instead of Dean Henderson? Let me know in the comments down below. Okay, let's move on and update you on Johnson. And the update currently is there are quotes coming out saying it would be a miracle if Forest still had Johno come the Arsenal game at the start of the season. I mean, didn't Forest release a film called I Believe in Miracles? What was that miracle? Oh yeah, we won the league and then the European Cup back to back. The miracles do happen in the WWE, as they say. And I don't really care about what's being said here. What I do want to see still is that Johno comes out and kind of speaks on his future. I think it's getting to that stage now. I know I've said it before and I said he's under no obligation to talk, but it would be really good and really reassuring to see that. There are talks, and as we've mentioned before, that Brentford will be tabling a new, more improved bid That doesn't worry me either. What is going to start to worry me is when the likes of Newcastle and Aston Villa and maybe even Spurs start sniffing around Johnson, and I fully expect that to happen. He's already been linked with Aston Villa. There were loose links earlier in the season to him to Newcastle, and I can see that happening again and sooner rather than later. So once these international matches have been finished off this week, I fully expect the whole train of rumors and speculation and things to grow and grow with Johnson. My personal feeling right now is the best thing Forest could do with him is just offer him a new improved contract. Give him a contract where he's being paid on par with the likes of Chris Wood, Shelvey, etc., rather than what he's on now, 30 plus whatever increases he's had for surviving in the Premier League. So I don't want to talk too much about Johno, but that's where it is now. But the media are really trying to hype that he will be leaving this summer. And I will say this, I've seen nothing to indicate that's going to happen yet. I'm not saying it won't, but at the moment, don't believe everything that you're reading in the papers. Get your thoughts in down below. Okay, so that brings you up to date with your latest Nottingham Forest news. Still very slow on the transfer front. Remember, players are still away on international duty. Hopefully, as soon as they start to come back, we will see some juicy stories and juicy names being linked to Nottingham Forest. But I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on what Giraldi had to say. Get them in the comments down below. And if you haven't already, before you leave, please don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to Forest Fan TV if you are new. And we'll see you on the next video. And come on, you Reds.